In our previous top 5 list, we looked at Overwatch players who are rated higher in the West than in Korea. Whether it's a lack of attention or just differences in perception, some players gain completely different images across different regions. Today, we flip the tables from our previous list and look at all the players who we feel have received less appreciation in the West than in the East. These are the top 5 Overwatch players who are rated higher in Korea than in the West. Let's get right into it. The list starts off with a star DPS, GodsBee, who is probably the most recognizable name in X6 gaming. He is a top tier DPS who is currently playing in Korea. With the Korean Contenders title now under his belt, he is recognized as one of the most consistent and versatile DPS who is not playing in the Overwatch League. A player who is known to play anything from Genji to McCree at a very high level. In fact, many pros have alluded to GodsBee being an Overwatch League level player, but with the signing window now closed, we won't be able to see him competing among the best until Season 2 at minimum. As of now, he is hardly a presence in the main stages of the Overwatch world, as GodsBee is someone who is only known to fans who have followed the Apex tournament or Contenders in recent months. For the majority of Western fans who only watch the Overwatch League, GodsBee is still a relatively unknown name. One of the newest additions to the Overwatch League, ChoiHyun is a monster d.va player who's been crowned as one of the best in the world during his time with X6. Having recently won the Overwatch Contenders in Korea, there was no doubt that several members from this team were going to get recruited to the big leagues. And sure enough, San Francisco was lucky enough to add one of the best divas to their lineup. Koreans are obviously well aware of his presence in the scene. Whenever Koreans would have an online discussion about why certain players had not yet found an Overwatch League spot, ChoiHyun was one of the few top names that was thrown out in the mix. For one, there has always been a shortage of premier sub tanks, but more importantly, ChoiHyun has shown his abilities mostly at Apex. In comparison, only a small portion of the Western audience know about him. The ones who followed Apex are certainly aware of his skills, but the majority of new Overwatch League fans have barely seen him play. The closest comparison to ChoiHyun would be Sayaplayer, who was well known during the Apex days, but only stepped into the Western spotlight when he joined Florida Mayhem. Along with Cox, Stitch has also been overshadowed by Haksal for many of the Western fans. During a time when several players like Seagull, Effect, or Birdring were being talked up as the great tracer players at Apex, little was ever mentioned of Stitch. In Korea, however, he had generally been regarded as one of the most solid domestic tracers. We're not sure why there is such a big contrast, but we certainly have our suspicions on why he gets so much more vocal support in the Korean online community. For one, he is one of the biggest fan bases in Korea, as someone who receives an explosive amount of support by the female fanbase for his dashing looks. However, his appearance isn't all that he has to attract the fans. In various points during the Apex days, he was among the leaders in several major statistical categories among tracer specialists. In fact, during an interview in Apex Season 2, Toby of Seoul Dynasty said the key to beating RunAway is to deal with Stitch, as he believes Stitch was the ace player for the team. While reaching the finals twice in 4 seasons, Stitch along with Cox and Kaiser is widely credited for turning RunAway into a championship caliber team. This one may surprise many, but we have a good reason putting Seagull at the number 2 pick on this list. Seagull has spent a good deal of time on the bench for Season 1, but he is regarded by many as a solid DPS who can now flex into the sub-tank position with d.va and Zarya. And with the Hanzo meta imminent in Overwatch, he should easily be considered a starting caliber player for many teams at the Overwatch League. However, what makes Seagull's case so unique is not that he is one of the most popular players in the world, but he also has numerous skeptics who question his abilities as a player. Who knows why he has these detractors, but if we were to guess, as Seagull became a rock star in the early days of Overwatch, his overabundant popularity may have spawned a portion of critics who felt that he was overrated for the amount of fame he was receiving. It's perhaps why we always see comments online like, "Why do people still sleep on Seagull?" His stats are top of the league, yet people still don't view him as a starter or the like. In Korea, however, there are far fewer detractors of this kind, simply because his level of popularity on YouTube or Twitch has not been quite as readily visible due to the language barrier. They certainly knew of him, but at the time they didn't have the chance to get to know his popularity either, as they had their own budding scene and their own star streamers to watch. It is no exaggeration when we say this list may have been tailored for a player like Jake, who is one of the most polarizing figures in the Overwatch League. Despite his poster boy levels of exposure, Jake hasn't only amassed fans during his time in the spotlight. In fact, as one of the premier Junkrat players in the world, he has received a huge amount of backlash for being a poster boy for this polarizing hero. Unfortunately for him, he was one of the best players at a hero who had dominated the first stage of the Overwatch League. And since then, Jokerat or Jakerat has become one of the most spammed memes on Twitch. While a lot of people recognize his skills on the hero, he has also become the face of the Junkrat meta, and as a result, has become a meme. So the real question is, when compared to the Western side, how is Jake viewed in the eyes of the Koreans? Surprisingly, he is seen with a lot more respect and a lot less memes. Jake made his first big impression in the 2017 World Cup. When Team USA was drawn up against South Korea on the first day of BlizzCon, everyone expected it to be a wash. But surprisingly enough, the Americans almost went up 2 sets against the Koreans, when all other countries had failed to even take one map in the group stage. Jake, Soldier, and Junkrat was on full display, wreaking havoc wherever he decided to go. And although they ultimately lost the match, it left a huge impression for the Korean fans. When his success on Junkrat continued at the Overwatch League, Jake started to be regarded as simply one of the best Junkrats in the world, someone who should be seen as a great, respectable player in this league. It's almost a travesty that the image of the same player can be this different amongst the two regions. Check out our website at AkshonEsports.com to stay up to date on the latest matches, highlights, and more. From scores, match history, and specific game info, we've got you covered for all things Overwatch Esports. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to check out our channel for more action-packed content. Also, like and share this video, and click the subscribe button to join our notification squad. Thanks for watching.